2007, the year a certain green satin dress hit the global screen, instantly setting the world on fire. It was a visual feast, a maximalist aesthetic moment. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. When that dress, draped in silk, flowed like water in the breeze, no words could ever capture its magic. The hidden melancholy and pure charm in her eyes made it an eternal classic in romance cinema. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Today, we're diving into the movie Atonement. Summer of 1935. 13-year-old Bryony peeps out the window and sees something she can't unsee. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. Her sister, Cecilia, is stripping off her clothes without hesitation, seemingly at the command of Robbie, the servant. She looked away, but that fierce teenage curiosity just wouldn't quit. This interlude promises more than it reveals. When she looked again, Cecilia was climbing out, wet clothes clinging to her skin, her alluring curves brazenly visible to Robbie. Bryony watched from afar, her breath growing frantic. She dashed to her room and, in less than a minute, her imagination cooked up the vilest scenarios. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. She instantly, and obsessively, labeled Robbie a dangerous pervert, while a mysterious pang of jealousy burned in her heart. Bryony was precocious, her only love was writing, and she was utterly obsessed with romance stories. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. In her blooming youth, she had a dreamy crush on the handsome Robbie, even copying scenes from her books to get his attention. She even recklessly jumped into deep water just to test his feelings. Her plan worked. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. She instinctively mistook it all for true love, not knowing Robbie only ever saw her as a little sister. Asterisk, I wanted you to save me. Don't you know how easily you could have drowned? You saved me, you, for a child star. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Asterisk, you could have killed us both. Is that you writing to the Duke? Asterisk, actually, Robbie and Cecilia were childhood sweethearts. Though he was the housekeeper's son, they attended Cambridge together. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. They had long confessed their feelings, but because of the class gap, that window paper of unspoken romance remained intact. In front of others, Cecilia always played the cool card with Robbie. Layers of longing unfold. Asterisk, why don't you talk to Robbie anymore? I do. Just make that look like those as well. Asterisk, internalizing class prejudice made Cecilia try to push Robbie away. Yet something deep in her heart couldn't help but yearn to be close. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. This clash between reason and desire grew stronger, intense, and unsettling. Like this summer heat. The old man telephoned last night. Asterisk, because you're planning on being a doctor? I'm thinking about it, yeah. I'm 60 as a student, man, star. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. Asterisk, I'll ask you to become a doctor. You got a fellowship now, couldn't you? I don't want to teach, first. I said I'd pay your father back. Asterisk, is that what I meant at all? Cecilia felt grumpy. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. She didn't want Robbie to leave, but she didn't know how to ask him to stay. She walked silently to the fountain to fill the vase. Robbie tried to help, but oops! He accidentally smashed the valuable vase. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. Asterisk, you idiot. You realize that's probably the most valuable thing we own? Not anymore, it isn't. Asterisk, careful. Cecilia frowned, tossed all pretense of manners aside, and started stripping. Right in front of Robbie. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Then she plunged into the water. Yes, the broken vase hurt, but mostly, it was the pain of her beloved leaving soon. She used this drama to release her sorrow. When Cecilia surfaced again, mesmerizing water droplets rolled down her curves. Robbie couldn't move his gaze an inch. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. It took a good while before he realized how inappropriate that was. and quickly turned away, too shy to look anymore. Cecilia grabbed the vase, avoided Robbie's hand, and left with a grumpy face. Back home, Robbie soaked in the tub, but that stunning figure remained stuck in his mind. He went to his study to write Cecilia an apology. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. 1,000 emotions swirled inside, and he couldn't pin them down. He paced the room, searching for inspiration. The words he wrote were full of deep, carnal yearning, making him laugh out loud. He couldn't believe he wrote such improper things. Note to self, always double-check your drafts before sending, sweethearts. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. So, he folded it and put it aside, starting a new, formal apology letter. Asterisk, Dear Cecilia, you'd be forgiven for thinking me mad, the way I acted this afternoon. The truth is, I feel star. This interlude promises more than it reveals. Asterisk, rather lightheaded and foolish in your presence, you see. And I don't think I can blame the heat. Asterisk, after tucking the proper letter into the envelope, Robbie put on a sharp suit, fixed his hair, and happily walked toward the manor. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. He spotted Bryony playing in the woods and called her over, hoping she could deliver the letter to Cecilia. Asterisk, you're gonna have to give this to C. I was fearful of handing them myself, star. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. After handing over the envelope, Robbie watched Bryony walk away, feeling uneasy. After a moment's thought, his heart lurched. He realized he rushed out and mistakenly gave her the passionate, indecent draft instead of the formal apology. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. Bryony was already home and secretly tore open the letter. Those indecent words exploded like a monster in her young mind. Instantly, filthy and vulgar were her new labels for Robbie. In her panic, she forgot to put the letter back in the envelope. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. And just handed it to Cecilia. Terrified, she told her cousin what she read. They agreed they should call the police. The doorbell rang. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Robbie stood outside, nervous. When he turned, a breathtakingly beautiful face stood before him. That exquisite green dress looked tailor-made for her, perfection itself. Cecilia's reaction blew Robbie's mind. Her deeply meaningful smile pulled him like a magnet. And he couldn't help but follow her. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Her earring fell off near the study door, unnoticed by both of them, lost in their own thoughts. Robbie closed the door, and the darkness was broken by a dim yellow lamp. Cecilia leaned nearby, her fingers nervously pressing the desk, searching for words. 1,000 things left unsaid. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. Asterisk, authority wanted me to go away to medical school, and I'd be happy. But I don't know how I could have been so ignorant about myself. So stupid. Asterisk, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? Her hesitant words, the tears welling up. Her lost composure, it all poured out before Robbie. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. How could he not understand the deep affection hiding beneath that nervous, flustered face? Meanwhile, Bryony spotted the dropped earring outside the study. A gut feeling drew her irresistibly toward the room. Whispers of what could be echoed through. The light streaming through the door crack hit her face. Everything was black and white. To her young, immature mind. As her steps grew closer, the intimate scene behind that light became horribly clear. Bryony's voice trembled and choked with unbelievable horror. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. She couldn't accept the intimacy between her sister and her crush, a bond she couldn't break into. Pain, rage, and pure hatred swelled powerfully in her mind. That night, Cecilia's brother brought a wealthy merchant friend home. Robbie stayed for dinner. All the while, Bryony stared fiercely at Robbie. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Her jealousy warped into prejudice, making her absolutely certain that Robbie was a dangerous hypocrite. He must have assaulted her sister. As everyone chatted, they noticed the two cousins hadn't appeared. They all got up to search. Bryony grabbed a flashlight. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. She went to her spot in the woods. Soon, she witnessed a chilling sight. Her cousin lay disheveled, a man tightly covering her mouth. Before Bryony could get a clear look, the attacker vanished. Shaken, Bryony rushed to her cousin, but she looked bewildered. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Asterisk, it was him, wasn't it? Yes. Lulu, who was it? It was Robbie, wasn't it? Robbie, asterisk. Bryony's words were highly suggestive. She was trying to prove her judgment of Robbie was correct. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. She didn't realize her intensely selfish lie would ruin a person's future and condemn her own life to an eternal cage of regret. Asterisk, yes, I saw him. Just as you see me. I saw him. I saw him with my own eyes, asterisk. Facing the police, Bryony's answer was utterly resolute. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. To seal Robbie's fate, she snuck into Cecilia's room, retrieved the explicit letter, and handed it to the police. Cecilia tried desperately to defend him, but faced with that evidence, her words were heartbreakingly useless. She lit a cigarette by the river steps. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. The green dress fluttered in the bone-chilling wind. Soon after, Robbie returned with the two children. He assumed everyone was grateful and smiled. But the very next second, layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Cold handcuffs snapped onto his wrists. The disaster struck so fast he didn't even know what was happening before he was hauled away. That one night stole his entire future. A harsh roar echoed across the estate. Cecilia stood frozen, her shadow stretching long. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Robbie's unjust imprisonment broke her passionate heart. Bryony, the cause of it all, leaned by the window. The gravity was far beyond her young scope. She realized she might have made a colossal mistake, but the young girl ultimately lacked the courage to reveal the terrible truth. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. 1939, war erupted. Robbie was given two choices, stay in jail or go to the front lines. He chose the latter. Before leaving, he saw the person he missed so deeply through the window. He approached her. 1,000 words caught in his throat. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. All he could manage was a simple greeting. Since Robbie went to prison, Cecilia cut off all contact with her family. She took up Robbie's unfinished dream and became a nurse. Whispers of what could be echoed through. Feeling the warmth of her hand, Robbie stopped stirring his coffee. His eyes were red-rimmed. But he quietly pulled his hand away. Life was uncertain on the battlefield. He couldn't bear to make Cecilia wait. This silent rejection was his last tender gift. This interlude promises more than it reveals. When Cecilia said she had to leave soon, told me anything vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. Robbie, didn't you read my letters? Asterisk, if I had been allowed to visit you, I would have been there every day, like when we had 3.5 months in a library, years ago, star. Whispers of what could be echoed through. A heartfelt glimpse, asterisk, I'm not sure, Robbie, look. I don't know, asterisk, look at me. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. After a deep kiss, Robbie watched Cecilia board the bus and finally whispered those 3 words hidden deep in his heart. His right hand slipped down the railing. Though his voice was barely a whisper, she understood exactly what he meant. This interlude promises more than it reveals. The brutality of war was far beyond Robbie's imagination. Fear and constant tension left him exhausted, far from home. The color photo of the cottage became his one and only lifeline. Dearest Cecilia, the war dragged on for 6 months. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. The air reeked of acrid smoke. Robbie tucked the photo into his chest and checked his wound. He felt overwhelmingly weak and tired. Under the setting sun, he kept moving with heavy steps. He desperately needed to see Cecilia again. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Entering the woods, Robbie saw dozens of young girls lying dead in a clearing. This horrific sight made him think of Bryony and her selfish lie. Her lie and the enemy's savagery were fundamentally the same, a reckless trampling of lives. But looking at the tragedy before him, this interlude promises more than it reveals. Robbie, who could never forgive Bryony, felt a tiny spark of pity. Maybe she was a poor soul trapped by class and environment. Robbie finally found the main unit. Sunlight hit his pale face, easing his breathing. He urgently asked the officer when they could evacuate. Whispers of what could be echoed through. You see, I'm expected back, you see. I'm a 300,000 men in the street. You'll have to wait your turn to be great if you're not wounded. Robbie walked heavily along the beach. He smelled no salt air and heard no seagulls. All he saw were dying horses, forced smiles, and wrecked vehicles. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. No one knew if they would make it out alive. Robbie's face was getting paler. He was terribly thirsty, but twisting the tap yielded not a single drop. He stumbled toward a giant screen where a black and white movie played. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. Its dialogue was muffled. Was it a farewell or a reunion? Night fell, bonfires sprung up. Robbie kept walking. He glimpsed his mother's silhouette flashing by and instinctively followed her into a room. Bathed in warm light, free from the cannon's roar. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Why don't you sit down? Seeing that familiar face, Robbie's strained nerves finally snapped. He collapsed into a seat. He felt like he was finally home. A long-lost smile appeared on his weary face. I have to get back. I promised her to put things right. And she loves me, star. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. She's waiting for me. Robbie tried to bolt out of the room. His steps were frantic. He kept repeating that he had to find a White House with blue windows. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. His comrade noticed something was wrong, pointing to the nearby bunker. That's the place you're looking for. In the dark, damp basement, drops of water hit the cold ground. Robbie stepped forward, believing he was truly by the sea, seeing the house. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. He could smell the salty air, hear the seagulls, and feel his beloved's skin. They played, laughed, and embraced, tasting a freedom and happiness they'd never known. Find you. Love you. Marry you, star. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. Capturing love's whisper, and live without shame, I love you. Come back, star. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Come back to me. Opening his eyes, Robbie looked utterly terrible. Fortunately, his comrade brought great news. The boats are back. And the regiment is marching us down at 7. Star. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Robbie managed a faint smile and whispered he was going to see someone soon. Someone who had been waiting for him for a long, long time. That tragedy 4 years ago didn't just change their destiny. It also changed Bryony, who was now swallowed by crushing guilt. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. She gave up Cambridge and became a nurse just like her, dirt on her hands wound whispers of what could be echoed through. She kept writing, but her main characters quietly became Robbie and Cecilia. That day, the soldiers finally returned. Bryony rushed into the crowd, desperate to find that familiar face. She urgently needed to confess her mistake. The hospital was filled with cries of agony. This was the first time Bryony truly witnessed the horrors of war as a nurse. Robbie's prolonged absence made her heart clench. Soon after, Bryony learned that her cousin was marrying the wealthy merchant who had been a guest at their house that night. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. To confirm her suspicion, she walked into the wedding. Looking at the groom's profile, those blurred memories snapped back into focus. She had seen the man's face. Hatred and prejudice had blinded her, leading her to push an innocent man into the abyss. This marriage would make it infinitely harder for Robbie to be cleared. Bryony's mind was a mess. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Wait any longer. Gathering her courage, she went to her sister. I want to go. Trust had died 4 years ago, on that cold summer night. This interlude promises more than it reveals. Bryony tried to explain, unaware that their talk was overheard by Robbie, returned from the front. He pulled the door open and stared at Bryony, trembling with disgust. Robbie's fury escalated. Every question, every step closer, made Bryony feel suffocated. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Asterisk, you have to be 18 before you can bring yourself to own up to a lie. There are soldiers of 18 old enough to be left to die by the side of the road. Did you know that? Asterisk, 5 years ago, you didn't care about telling the truth, you only cared about your family. The narrative's pulse quickens here. You just assumed for all my education I was still little better me to the fucking world. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. Although this late apology couldn't reverse his fate, Robbie demanded that Bryony write down everything he turned away silently for a long time. Pulse quickens here. In the story's embrace, asterisk, I'm very, very sorry. And then leave us the asterisk asterisk I will. I promise, star. This interlude promises more than it reveals. Robbie didn't want to hear her voice anymore. Now, all he wanted was a peaceful life with Cecilia. Soon, they moved to that seaside cottage, just as they had dreamed of. Hand in hand, they ran through the waves, played, and watched the tides. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. There was no war, no farewells, and no lies here. Inside the White House with the blue windows, their love was carved into their souls. But, was this truly the reality? Did Robbie actually return from the war? Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. Actually, Bryony never went to see Cecilia out of fear. All this beauty was just a fantasy, written in her novel later in life. On the day of the evacuation, in that cold, damp basement, Robbie died, holding Cecilia's photo. He was forever left in a foreign land. Cecilia died the same year during an enemy raid. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. Her whole life was spent waiting for Robbie's confession, for his release, for his return home. Even though her letters vanished, she never stopped gazing out at the sea. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. A lie told in youth became Bryony's eternal regret. Her only recourse was to use her. The fictional Robbie and Cecilia couldn't forgive her. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. The cruelest punishment isn't death, it's living with absolute awareness of your failure. Bryony would spend her whole life trying to fill the hole of unforgivable guilt in her heart. This interlude promises more than it reveals. This moving story is an ultimate test of human nature, war, and peace. Without that malicious lie and without cruel war, Robbie and Cecilia's ending might have been dramatically different. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. In essence, the lie and the war are the same, both ruthlessly destroy the destinations and lives of others. Only, compared to war, the emotional damage of a lie is often more persistent and agonizing. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. How many of us unconsciously play the role of the judge in real life? Last a lifetime. Be careful with your words. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. When the mistake was made, 13-year-old Bryony instinctively ran away. As an adult, fear and cowardice made her miss the only chance for atonement. Only in her final years did she realize, admitting mistakes isn't shameful. It's part of becoming a better person. Whispers of what could be echo through. Diving into the romance, it takes courage to romance blooms in the rain.